What is the true cost of loyalty in modern sports? We like to think of sports greatness as a story with a guaranteed storybook ending. That if you give an entire decade of your life to a franchise, bring them 4 championships, and fundamentally change how the game of basketball is played across the globe, the basketball gods will reward you with a grateful golden sunset. But the basketball math doesn't care about fairy tales. In the 2025-26 NBA season, at 37 years old, Stephen Curry played some of the most absurdity-defying basketball of his entire professional life. He averaged 25.3 points per game on a 62.6% true shooting percentage. Read that again. A 37-year-old point guard shooting at efficiency levels that most superstars don't touch in the absolute zenith of their prime. And yet, the Golden State Warriors finished 37-45, 10th seed, eliminating them before the playoff bracket even officially began. Yes, you heard that right. One of the top 10 players to ever walk the earth is spending the twilight of his career fighting just to get blown out in single elimination playing games. This, my friends, is the paradox of the modern Golden State. We often talk about the ring culture as if winning is purely a choice. That if a front office simply wants to win, they can. But the Golden State Warriors are currently proving that you can possess a top 5 offensive engine in basketball history and still be mathematically ordinary. Because while the rest of the league evolved, the Warriors front office became frozen in time. To understand how we arrived at this tragedy, we have to go back to the concept that was praised in a boardroom meetings, but proved catastrophic on the court. The 2-timeline strategy. When a team has a generational superstar, standard NBA logic dictates a simple rule. You burn all your assets to win now. You trade draft picks, you sacrifice 2030 for 2025, and you build a fortress around your guy. Golden State thought they were smarter than history. Instead of trading the number 2 overall pick in 2020 for an established co-star, they drafted James Wiseman.
Hell no!
They envisioned a future where Wiseman would inherit the franchise after Steph rode off into the sunset. But while Wiseman struggled to find his footing, LaMelo Ball became an all-star and Tyrese Maxey blossomed into a dynamic playoff weapon. And the draft blunders didn't stop there. They took Jonathan Kuminga with the 7th pick in 2021. They told media he was the future face of the franchise, but instead of committing to his development or trading him while his value was astronomical, they dangled him in draft trade rumors for years. By the time they finally parted ways, the asset that was supposed to bridge the gap between 2 eras resulted in nothing more than a lost opportunity. They treated future draft picks like rare museum artifacts, while Steph Curry was out on the floor executing weekly miracles. But if the draft missteps were painful, the off-seasons that followed were downright baffling. Entering the crucial off-seasons of Curry's final contract window, the Warriors needed a blockbuster move, a swing for the fences. They almost pulled off the impossible, pairing Steph Curry with LeBron James. Think about how historic this storyline was. LeBron was open to the move. Draymond Green was so deeply committed to forming the ultimate veteran super team that he offered to take a massive pay cut, signaling a willingness to decline his lucrative option to clear cap space. All Golden State had to do was pull off a trade package centered around an aging, banged up Jimmy Butler to acquire Anthony Davis and unlock LeBron's arrival. But Golden State, they hesitated. They worried about AD's injury history, they hesitated on giving up long-term draft control, and the deal collapsed. The aftermath, LeBron didn't come. Draymond, left with no super team to join, picked his option back up, leaving the Warriors locked into paying an aging core heavy luxury tax penalties under the brutal restrictions of the NBA's Second-Apron. The grand redesign of Golden State's final era vanished before it even started. Desperate for a secondary shot creator, the Warriors pivoted to Jimmy Butler. On paper, Butler's playoff crit sounded like the missing piece to give Steph a real puncher's chance. Then catastrophe struck. In January, Jimmy Butler went down, suffering a devastating torn ACL in his right knee. A 36-year-old star suffering an ACL tear means he isn't just out for a season. His entire recovery timeline pushes any potential return to the final weeks of the following regular season. In an instant, Golden State's gamble blew up. They were left with an aging roster, zero salary cap flexibility, and an injured co-star taking up a massive payroll space while Steph Curry carried the entire offensive burden by himself. The situation grows so grim that the Whisper networks began floating surreal trade scenarios. Rumors circulated about rival front offices, including Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics, testing the waters to see if the Golden State would ever do the unthinkable and trade Steph to a contender. Curry isn't going anywhere. His alliance to the Bay Area is ironclad, but the simple fact that media analysts were seriously discussing Stephen Curry in a Boston Celtics jersey proves how broken the Golden State situation had become. The Golden State Warriors tried to outsmart the natural life cycle of an NBA dynasty. They tried to win today while hoarding assets for tomorrow, and in doing so, they accomplished neither. Which brings us back to our opening question. How do we measure the final chapter of a legend? When the dust settles and Stephen Curry actually hangs up his sneakers for good, history will honor the 4 rings, the anonymous MVP, and the revolutionary shooting that changed the basketball forever. But as we watch him give everything he has to carry an impossible load night after night, one uncomfortable truth remains. Golden State didn't run out of time, they ran out of vision. And in doing so, they turned the closing act of the greatest shooter in human history from a victory lap into a tragedy.